Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Interview. I'm Jennifer Duke. This is a pretty remarkable story. 1 minute, you're an Australian startup creating 3D virtual models for the metaverse. The next, tech giant Apple is using your technology in the demonstration of its Vision Pro virtual reality headset. It's exactly what happened to Jigspace, whose tech was featured in the Apple presentation, marking a major step forward not just for the technology, but the Jigspace business. Zach Duff is the co-founder and CEO of Jigspace. Zach, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Thanks, Jen. It's great to be here.
So firstly, can you walk me through exactly what Jigspace does?
So Jigspace is a 3D presentation platform. It empowers teams to easily communicate big ideas in augmented reality. So we have businesses ranging from industrial giants like PepsiCo, Medtronic, Thermo Fisher, all the way down to niche manufacturers, and they're bringing their complex products to market using Jig. So it makes it easier to understand and access their product knowledge and information, and it kind of gets their customers to that aha moment quicker. And they're using that in sales, marketing, product training, those kind of places.
And I know I mentioned Apple right at the beginning, but before we get to that, can you explain a little bit more in detail about what sort of companies have been using your technology and how they're using those jigs to do that communication piece?
Yeah, so some of the companies we've been working with now for a little while are Medtronic, Panasonic, PepsiCo, Thermo Fisher. So they're companies that are selling complex, technical, expensive products that are hard to communicate or difficult to explain. And there's also a really high transaction value on that product. So if you think about, say, manufacturing automation. So there's a lab automation company in the UK called Automata. They sell medical lab fit outs. So they'll go into a lab, and that medical labs haven't changed in 100 years. So it's a person standing at a desk dealing with a sample here, moving along, putting it in a new machine. It's been exactly the same. So when COVID hit, they started to sell their medical lab kind of fit outs, this automation with a robot arm and this whole really interesting bench that they'd created that would allow them to connect software and hardware together. To sell that, I mean, you can even hear with the explanation I'm giving of it, it's a pretty complex thing. And to visualize it and to put that into a lab is a really complex process. That sales cycle is 6 months or more. So they're using Jig in their sales process and in their communication with their customer to really shorten that time. So they're reducing their sales cycle by 75%. So they're down to 6 weeks with a sale, because not only can they explain it and show it in 3D with augmented reality, they can place it right there in the customer's lab, and they can show what the new layout will be, how the robot will work. They'll show how it interacts with their existing equipment. They can then, when they have a change request in that process, rather than taking the 20 days that it used to take to turn around a change request in that kind of sales process, they can now do it 15 minutes after the phone call. So they're just dramatically shortening the time it takes to get people to that point where they go, yep, great, I understand this, let's move forward.
That's incredible. And now I guess onto the bit that we're all really eager to hear about as well as is Apple. And when you found out that Apple was going to be using Jigspace in its demonstration, what was that moment like? And whenabouts did you find out?
It's pretty amazing. We were very fortunate to get tickets to WWDC to see it. And it was like, it's a pretty amazing moment to see your stuff and the work that you do on the biggest stage. So it's pretty surreal. The thing I love about it, though, is the vision and the breadth of vision for this technology and what it means for our customers is crazy. And to be aligned with what Apple are doing is a really big thing for us. But it's also, the fact is we're the best in the world at this. And so they want to work with the best. And that's why we're in those places.
Definitely. And Vision Pro is sort of one of those much more talked about presentations that we've heard of in a long time. What did that mean for you and your business in that moment?
It's a great marketing platform. It's quite a few people watched that. I think there's like 30 million views on it through various platforms. So there was a lot of eyeballs on that. And we were working with one of our partners, who's the Alfa Romeo F1 team. So we've been working with them for a couple of years, and the jig that we showed, the 3D presentation, was of their car. And that was really cool. So visually, it's a really impressive piece. And that means that all the articles that come out about the Vision Pro, they want to use the F1 car. as the key visual. So that's been really cool. But it also means our customers have come to us and said, well, we saw you there. How do we get in? Like, we want to have deeper integration with what you're doing so that we can use this when it comes out. And it means that investors are reaching out to us more. So it's the effect we wanted. And we put a lot of effort into making that very smooth. We updated our website the moment it happened. Like, there was a lot of stuff that went into it.
Stay with me, Zach. We'll be back in a minute. I'm talking to Zach Duff, co-founder and CEO of Jigspace. Do you see applications in the future that are much more consumer-based? Because obviously at the moment you're doing a lot of commercial industrial and there's a very clear use case there. When will sort of lots of Aussies be able to see the jigs?
Well, you can use it right now. Like, there's a free app, and it is used in schools a lot. So there is in the early days, actually, where Jig came from, I had been making video games for about 10 years, and I came back to Australia and wanted to teach game design. So I was teaching in a college, distance education students. They couldn't come into a school to learn, and their engagement rates drop off dramatically. Like, in the first 3 weeks, if you don't get them engaged, it's really hard to re-engage. So we created a live teaching platform in virtual reality. It was one of the first in the world of its kind. But in that platform, in this beautiful environment, students could be there. They could be talking to each other, a teacher up the front with a big screen behind them. And they had their own virtual computer, we called a slate, that they could do their coursework on. But all of the knowledge we had in this world where we could create anything, all of the information was a PowerPoint or a PDF. So it was this 2D information in a 3D world. That's kind of where Jig was born, was how would we communicate quickly in 3 dimensions? The technology and the hardware was converging. I could see that from my work in arcade games, that the software and the hardware was going to converge into a headset of some kind that was light enough, powerful enough, high resolution enough to actually bring knowledge into the world, 3D knowledge. So I took a Friday off, started prototyping what I thought would be PowerPoint for 3D. And that's kind of where it was born. But to go back to that consumer angle and where will people use it, the very first jig that I made was the instructions for assembling an IKEA table.
That's amazing.
So the little lack table, just 4 table legs and a tabletop. Yeah, every uni student has one at some stage. But that was like a light bulb moment, because seeing that assembly process in 3 dimensions, and you think as it gets more and more complex, the ability to understand something spatially in the same way that we experience reality, the same way our brains are wired to learn, is a profound moment. And I sat back and thought, okay, if I look at my air conditioner on the wall and I think, I want to change the filter on that. I don't need to get someone out to change the filter on my air conditioner, but I'm going to have to, because I don't know how it works. But if Mitsubishi had made a jig for that product and it would show me how it pulled apart and how I could replace it in 3D right there on that thing, that would be a massive game changer for everyone. And it would allow people to really understand the world around them. So that was what I wanted to build, was a platform where you could look at anything and ask, how does it work? How do I fix that? What's that made of? And the answer was available right there in front of you. So we're starting in like this manufacturing commercial area, but the idea is that humanity's knowledge in 3D is where we want to be.
And we are all incredibly visual creatures. So I am pretty eager to know where you're heading to from here. You're obviously an Aussie business. You're growing pretty rapidly. You're getting a lot of exposure. But Australia's notoriously a very difficult time zone. Are you planning to move operations overseas? Have you got some expansion plans in mind?
Yeah, we definitely do. So we're just in the process of setting up kind of our beachhead in the US. So we do work pretty crazy hours, I think, to service our customers, most of which are in Europe and the US. So it is, some long nights, but the expansion into the US will be fantastic. We've been product led the whole way. We believe that the product and the person using it needs to be the most important thing for us, rather than just going in at a high level and selling. We wanted to make sure that it really worked for the end user, the person who's stuck with it, the knowledge worker, like the non-technical worker who has to kind of crank out all the knowledge content. So we've focused very heavily on that, but now we're starting to spin up our sales team as our customers that started out on the free tier and have been moving up through the different paid tiers. We're starting to get enterprise contracts from that organic growth. And we now have kind of the motion in place so that we can go out and start to sell those bigger enterprise contracts.
Which I guess brings us to the money. So over the last couple of years, you've done a couple of funding rounds totaling about US $10 million. So are you profitable yet? Or are you still in that growth phase?
Still in the growth phase, but we're moving towards it pretty rapidly at the moment. So we really only started commercializing in the last about 14 to 16 months when we started to put out our pricing model that we're working on now. And that's all been product-led organic growth. And we're past $500,000 in rev now. So it's starting to grow now as we put this kind of the afterburners on with the sales motion. It's going to really start ramping up.
Definitely. Zach, thank you very much for talking to Fear and Greed.
No worries. It's been great to be on here.
And that was Zach Duff, the co-founder and CEO of Jigspace. This is the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, Australia's best business podcast. I'm Jennifer Duke, economics correspondent for Capital Brief and filling in for Sean Elmer. Have a great day.